Hey, everybody, and welcome in. We're going to talk some Olympics here on WCNC Charlotte. I'm Sports Director Nick Carboni, and joining me tonight is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brad, thank you for joining me. And since you're here, I got to ask you, because this is wacky to me.
Yeah.
Hello, Aiden. Thanks for joining us, and feel free to comment and ask us questions. It is snowing at the Winter Olympics, and that is screwing things up. Explain this.
It's weird, Nick. When these games are selected right away, you think, okay, it's got to be a wintry place, right? Well, Beijing is not a very wintry place. They do not get a lot of snow. In fact, in Beijing itself, they only average about 20 inches of snow per year. They're very dry. It's cold there, Nick, but it's not very snowy. They're on the edge of the Gobi Desert. In fact, they don't get a lot of snow. So when they saw snow this week, it was kind of rare. You see some of the images there. They ended up with about 6 inches of snow there. And it actually was problematic because, first of all, they're not used to dealing with snow. It affects travel. But for the skiers in particular, one of the things that's interesting about skiing, like you and I, if we go to beach or Sugar Mountain, we ski on really soft kind of snow that falls like you're seeing there. The snow that the alpine racers like to ski on is really hard pack. It's really icy. That's why you hear when you're watching the games that sound, that's really hard packed snow. And in fact, they like the man-made snow because it's a controlled surface. They know what they're getting. When you throw this natural snow on top of it, it's really slow. And you saw that in some of the races where they were skiing with the snow falling and they would go into like a shaded spot and it would actually slow them down. So some of the times you're seeing like in the Super G and the downhill was actually much slower than you would expect because of that natural snow. It's bizarre. You don't normally expect to see snow over there, and this was a rarity for them.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I read that they were using leaf blowers to clear out the cross-country skiing tracks of the fresh snow to keep it to the man-made stuff like you were talking about. And visibility, Brad, just like in anything we do, that can be an issue too. These skiers were saying the flakes were so big, I wasn't able to see. So not only what they're going downhill on, but what they're seeing in front of them affects their time.
Yeah, and if you've skied at all, one of the things that's really frustrating is something called flat light, and that's when you got no sunshine, you've got snow falling, and if you ever wonder why they paint that blue and some of the colors on the snow, it's because if you don't have like amber lenses on, you can't see the texture of the snow very well because it's really flat. So when it's snowing like that, it doesn't make for really great visibility, and it's really tough to see the bumps and the churns. It really does impact them. Now, the one thing they've had plenty of, Nick, is cold air. I mean, it's been in the teens, single digits, and 20s. So it's been cold. They don't normally see snow. You see shots like this more often than not where there's snow on the actual runs, but there's no snow outside of there. That tells you that most of that is man-made. The only thing that's great about natural snow in the Olympics is it makes for these beautiful bump shots that NBC gets of the snow-capped mountains. But for the skiers themselves and the competitors, they much rather have the man-made stuff than natural.
So just one more quick thing on this. I know there's not like an exact comparison, but in terms of how strange it is to see snow in Beijing this week, it's a city that hosted the Summer Olympics. Is there a U.S. city where it'd be like, wow, they had the Winter Olympics there?
Well, as far as snowfall amounts, you're probably talking about the average snowfall you would see in like Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Now, it's much colder in Beijing than Louisville because of the elevation. But as far as snowfall amounts, that's about the average they get, which would be similar to Louisville, which is interesting because, they had this high elevation and they figured they were going to make all their snow and that was going to be fine. But they have rugged mountains. If you've seen the pictures, they are really steep. And in fact, the National Sliding Center there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the steepest ones they've had for any of the Olympics. So the steepness is not, or the grade is not the issue. It's always been, the natural snow that they don't normally get. And then this week, of all weeks, they finally get 6 inches of snow. My buddy Garce is over there in the production crew, and he's working for NBC, and he was telling me, he's from Colorado, and he says, it was interesting. It's 6 inches, and they were out with, like you said, leaf blowers and brooms sweeping it off, and they tried to clean everything up. But he said most of it did melt pretty quickly by the middle of the day, so it wasn't really much of an issue after they got to the daytime hours.
That's fascinating. And not only are you a weather expert, obviously you follow sports really closely. And one of the big storylines at these Olympic Games, unfortunately, has been 15-year-old Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva. And just to recap, she wowed us all at the beginning of the games with she's the first woman to hit a quad jump in an Olympics. She did it twice in one routine, and then it was brought up that she was flagged for testing positive for a trace amount of a banned heart medication in December, I believe. So there was this, is she going to be able to continue? Is she not? And an arbitration court decided that she could continue to compete without, and the IOC and anti-doping agencies, they're not happy with that decision, but that's the decision that was made. For me, Brad, I just feel bad. This is a 15-year-old kid, and who knows what's going on over there that's causing her to take these medications. We've got to understand we're not dealing with an adult here. This is a kid.
Yep. And Nick, first of all, everyone thinks, okay, it's the Russians, right? They've already been banned. That's why they're competing under ROC and not under the Russian flag. So you immediately have doubts. But you mentioned that she's 15 years old. This happened in December. They didn't get the test results till like last week. So there's all these circumstances which, normally the benefit of the doubt you wouldn't give to a Russian skater because of their past. But I think the judgment was probably the right one because they don't have all the information. There was a delay because of, believe it or not, of all things, all the labs were testing so much COVID testing. They weren't able to turn around the drug test quick enough. And I think that was the big delay. And as you mentioned, she's 15. So because she's a minor, I think they're giving her a little bit more leeway until they can get more information. But what's interesting is like if they win a medal, they're not going to have the medal ceremony. Because they want to make sure it's a legitimate medal. So talk about an awkward thing. I mean, even for the silver and bronze winners, they're not going to be able to participate in a medal ceremony because potentially the Russian team, which will probably win a medal. I mean, she's going to win a medal, I think, just because she's the best skater in the world. Then they don't get to participate in the medal ceremony. So it's a tough situation all the way around. I understand the skepticism people have because of the past with the Russians, but I think it is fair to give her the benefit of the doubt because she is so young and it happened in December and there's all these other circumstances going on.
Yeah, if she's first in the short program right now, and it'll be a really sticky situation if they cannot have any medal ceremony at all for everybody involved. And the other thing is, as you said, this goes back to December. There's a lot of circumstances. A lot of people pointing to Sha'Carri Richardson of the U.S., the sprinter that was not allowed to compete for testing positive for THC. But we'll leave that for another stream, another day.
That's a whole nother show.
Let's switch to hockey, Brad. This is the U.S. teams. The women are going to play in the gold medal game tomorrow night.
Oh, yes.
11 o'clock. We're going on early. So we'll get to really watch this one. USA, Canada, and women's hockey is as good of a rivalry as it gets in sports right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you think about in the Olympics, the two women's sports that have their biggest rivals as Canada right now are U.S. soccer and U.S. hockey on the women's side. So it's pretty amazing, this rivalry. I mean, it's a country that borders us, so we have kind of a natural built-in rivalry. The Canadians by far have been the best team. They have just been blowing people out. But with a rivalry like this, I think in the gold medal game, I think you throw all that out because it's just such a tight competition. The big question for me is I've watched a lot of these games because they've been on in the mornings on USA. I'm glad this one's on tomorrow night. They have three great goalies for the U.S. team. And who are they going to pick to play in this game? Because they've all been really good. The defense of the USA has been really impressive on the women's side.
And it's kind of like that, when we see two NFL teams, great defense against a great offense. Canada has one of the best front lines in the tournament, probably the best, and they have a lot of explosive offensive firepower. So that's going to be great. And the men, they're going to play their quarterfinal game tonight at 11:10. And I know people want to draw comparisons to the Miracle on Ice team because this is not a team made up of NHL guys. They're ridiculously young, or they're veterans that played a long time ago. And they're college guys. So I think that brings a different element into it that we haven't seen in a while. I love watching the U.S. team compete when they have the NHL players, but it's cool to see these kids put it together, and we'll see if they can make the gold medal game.
Yeah, and Nick, this has kind of been like the quietest story of the Olympics because they've been playing amazing, and they're a bunch, like you said, a bunch of no-name players. And it's really been impressive. So this will be exciting to watch them play. And if you've ever watched Olympic hockey, it is much different than I think NHL or anything else. The rink is bigger. There's more space. It's more wide open. And I just love Olympic hockey. To me, even as a kid, that was my one sport that I loved watching during the Winter Games because it was just so exciting. Because visually on TV, they have that white ice and you can follow the puck so easily on this large ice surface. It does make it amazing. And they have both the men and the women basically playing so well is kind of nice, considering some of the other disappointments we've had on the U.S. side in this Olympics. It's nice to see the hockey team stepping up right now.
All right, you can watch the U.S. men in the quarterfinals against Slovakia tonight after 11 o'clock, and the women in the gold medal game against Canada tomorrow night. Brad Panovich, thanks for joining us and explaining all this crazy snow stuff to us. It's fascinating.
We're not going to get any sleep now, Nick. We're going to stay up and watch hockey.
I know. That's the benefit of working NBC for the Olympics. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And we're doing this most every night at 10 o'clock during the games.